Today I wanted to review this, which is the Darksaber set from Kyberlight Sabers. Now, if you're not familiar with Kyberlight, they were some of the first that I saw to adopt an interchangeable model. So the Kyberlight itself is a straightforward tube of a lightsaber that all kinds of various parts and accessories fit on top of. So unlike Ultra Sabers and Saberforge, where you have to unscrew parts to screw other parts in, you do that with the pommels on these, but the emitters and the grips and everything slide on top of the saber, which is something that you also see in places like Bendu Armory. The difference is that with the Kyberlight, if I pull all the pieces off, the saber is not a chassis, it's still a saber, it's just a very plain looking saber. The Darksaber is the newest set from them, and I do appreciate that Kyberlight has been upping their game lately. Their new saber electronics are so much better. I mean, they're still not quite up to industry standards like the CFX or the Golden Harvest, but the Kyberlight smooth swing and the sound effects are, those are on par with a lot of other things. It's just less customizable. So I like the fact they've upped their game on their soundboards, and they're upping their game on the sleeves and the things that move on top of them. The original generation were all very basic. There was a grip section, there was an emitter section, there was a pommel. All right, with the Fallen Empire version, which they came out with a while ago, which I also reviewed, they started playing around with the overall shape and how those grip sections and emitters actually attached to the saber. The Darksaber version is one more step up from that. So what this thing boils down to, let me go ahead and dismantle it for you. This is not the blade that comes with the set. This is a Ripper blade. I will talk about the blade that comes with the set, and there's a reason that it's not in here. So first off, the design that we have here is the Darksaber from the Mandalorian series. Okay, a lot of the other Darksabers that are floating around out there are things like the Darksaber from Rebels, or the Darksaber from Clone Wars. So the other Darksaber a lot of the other Darksaber models are using that Rebels or Clone Wars aesthetic. This one and the one from Electrum Sabercrafts and the new one from Ultra Sabers are all using the Mandalorian style, which to a lot of people is more recognizable, because I think the audience for Mandalorian is a lot larger than the audience for the other shows. But anyhow, let me get into pulling this thing apart. So the screw for the blade, you have to unscrew it to remove the blade, but in order to get the emitter off, you have to screw it back in or take it out, because the emitter is going to slide off over the top. All right. There is a thumb screw up here that can alternately be replaced with a regular screw that unscrews. And when you do that, everything comes loose. This is the emitter section right here. This is the crossguard. The sleeve section is secured by 2 screws on either side, just like all of their other sleeves. And when you remove those 2 screws, the sleeve slides off, and here is our plain black Kyberlight, and here is our setup. So again, what they charge for this set is maybe a little bit high for the material that you get with it, but it's a nice setup and it's well designed. There's a little barb right at the top here on this that hooks into one of those notches on the crossguard, and then the other one is on the emitter. So basically, that hooks in there, that hooks in there, and that's the Darksaber. It works better with the Kyberlight in the middle. So the only thing about these is all of the other accessory sets that Kyberlight has sold, it's easier to piecemeal them apart. The Fallen Order one is a little bit trickier, but by and large, you can take the sleeve section and use it with other emitter sections. This one, because of these little barbs and because of where it all hits, it's kind of an all or nothing proposition. When you put this on, that looks kind of weird as far as that goes up. And if I slapped a classic emitter on there, it would still look a little bit weird, and it would have this little flange out here. All right, it's kind of an all or nothing. It's the Darksaber or it's not. All things told, I like these parts, and yeah, the price isn't bad. It's just a little bit steep when you take into consideration the blade. So let me talk about the blade. This is the blade that comes with the Darksaber. It definitely reads as a Darksaber, and it's a whole lot less expensive than like a Ripper blade. All things told, though, it's about as expensive as some of the stuff that like LGT comes out with. And the design on it leaves something to be desired. This is all flat black. It's like a paint on top of there, so it's clear underneath. You can see, though, that there's very little beveling along the edge. So when you load this thing up into the saber and you turn it on, gotta undo that set screw in order to get that in there. All right. So when you load this up and turn it on, okay, you notice that when you're looking at the saber itself, there's very little light. So it has to be straight on or else you don't see it. You start angling it and you don't get much of a profile. You still do get enough profile for it to read as a Darksaber. The problem is down here. You see all that light spilling out on either side of the blade? Off. So this is a problem that I've had with Kyberlight blades before. I like them, they're well designed, they're definitely budget blades, they're a lot less expensive to get, but their blade plug is super clear. What that means is that when the light comes up here, some of it rides all the way up the blade like it's supposed to, but a good portion of it just bleeds out here. So that lights up the side of the blade, which ruins the effect. And also, if you shine the thing at a wall, it's like straight on flashlight on a wall, because so much light is lost. Even the fact that all of this is clear, the light comes through here, but since it's not roughed up at all, it just shoots right out. So there's not a lot of glowing blade, and there's a whole lot of light lost on the wall and anything surrounding, and on the sides of the blade down here. That said, if you're looking for something to tinker with, and you don't want to worry about cutting it out yourself, this is a decent enough blade if you want to edit it yourself. You'd have to put some sort of diffusive or reflective material right here. You'd want to go in with a Dremel and just bevel the edge all the way around, and this makes a much more, I believe that this would make a much more effective blade. Otherwise, I think it's a better call just to get the hilt set itself. If you're looking for a Darksaber, this is a good way to use a lightsaber that you may already have and turn it into a Darksaber. I don't think anybody else is doing that. The Ultra Sabers one uses some MHS parts, but all the others are, you want a Darksaber, you buy a Darksaber. This is, you have a Kyberlight, for the cost of some accessories, you can turn that Kyberlight into a Darksaber, which in some ways I think gives it a leg up on a lot of others, because if you're not going to want to carry, if you don't have a whole stash full of lightsabers, you only got a few, and you don't want to carry around a Darksaber very often, this is a good buy-in to, when I need it, I can have a Darksaber. Yeah, the only quibble that I have about this Darksaber design is that it's not accurate. It definitely reads as a Darksaber, and if you're carrying it around, especially with a flat blade, that's what it looks like. But they probably could have come up with the classic angled pommel without too much difficulty. They might have had some problems with alignment and making certain it came up straight. But just using their flat pommel, I think, was a little bit of a miss when they could have just added in a new pommel for a little bit extra. But other than that, definitely a decent Darksaber model at a low price point if you already have a Kyberlight. If you don't, if you're committed to the Darksaber, then maybe a different path would be the way to go. But this is a good buy-in if you've already got a Kyberlight, you're looking to have the option to use a Darksaber, and you don't intend that you're probably going to be using it all the time. All right, Kyberlight Darksaber setup. Hopefully this has been of use to you. If it has, join me back next time, and I'll see you then.